Hello everyone! Today we dive into one of the most chilling and perplexing mysteries of the 20th century, a case that has fascinated investigators, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a tragedy that occurred in the freezing wilderness of the Ural Mountains in 1959, where 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition and never returned alive. What makes this story so haunting is not just the deaths, but the circumstances in which they were found. These are injuries, strange behavior, and a trail of unanswered questions that continue to this day. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Along with 8 other students and graduates, they set out on what was supposed to be a challenging but rewarding trek through the snowy slopes of the northern Urals. These were not amateurs. Each member was an experienced skier and mountaineer. They were young, determined, and skilled, ready to earn the highest level of hiking certification available in the Soviet Union at the time. None of them could have imagined that their journey would end in mystery and death. The expedition began on January 27, 1959. Spirits were high, and the hikers carried with them supplies, skis, cameras, and journals. They documented their trip in photographs and diaries, capturing moments of laughter, determination, and camaraderie. The group included Igor Dyatlov himself, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Lyudmila Dubinina, Rustam Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Alexander Kolvatov, Nikolai Thybox, Brig Knowles, Semyon Zolotaryov, and Yuri Krivonishenko. Each of them had dreams and ambitions beyond this expedition. By January 31, the hikers reached the edge of a high pass. They set up camp in the forest, preparing to cross the mountains the next day. On February 1, they began their climb toward the mountain pass that now bears Dyatlov's name. But worsening weather, snowstorms, and poor visibility forced them to deviate from their planned route. Instead of descending to a more sheltered valley, they set up camp on the eastern slope of Koletsayak, a name that ominously translates from the local Mansi language as Mountain of the Dead. That decision would be their last. The hikers never came back. When the group failed to return by the expected date of February 12, relatives and fellow students raised the alarm. A rescue mission was launched, involving volunteers, military personnel, and helicopters. What they discovered shocked even the most hardened searchers. On February 26, rescuers found the group's tent. It was half buried in snow, abandoned, and most disturbingly, slashed open from the inside. The hikers had cut their way out rather than using the entrance. Inside, their belongings were left untouched. Warm clothing, boots, equipment, even food supplies. It appeared as though they had fled in a hurry into the freezing night, wearing little more than their underwear or light clothing, completely unprepared for the brutal conditions outside. The searchers followed footprints in the snow, leading down toward the edge of the forest nearly a mile away. There, beneath a large cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, those of Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko. They were shoeless, dressed only in underwear, and had built a small fire in a desperate attempt to stay warm. The tree above them had broken branches, suggesting one of them had climbed up, perhaps to look for the tent or escape something unseen. Soon, 3 more bodies were discovered: Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. They were found at intervals between the cedar tree and the tent, as though they had been trying to crawl back. Dyatlov lay on his back, his fists clenched. Kolmogorova had bruises and abrasions, signs of a struggle against the cold. Slobodin had a cracked skull but no fatal injuries. All 3 seemed to have died of hypothermia, but the remaining 4 hikers were missing for months. Only in May, when the snow melted, did rescuers uncover their bodies in a ravine further into the forest. What they found was beyond explanation. Dubinina was missing her tongue and parts of her face. Thybox, Brig Knowles had a crushed skull, and both Zolotaryov and Dubinina had multiple broken ribs and internal injuries comparable to those from a car crash. Yet strangely, there were no external wounds to match the internal damage. It was as if some massive pressure had struck them. Their clothing also contained traces of radiation. The official Soviet investigation concluded that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force, but what that force was, they could not say. The files were quickly closed, and secrecy shrouded the case for years. Theories exploded. Some believed it was an avalanche, forcing the hikers to cut their way out of the tent and flee in panic. Others suggested infrasound, low-frequency sound waves caused by the wind, that could induce fear, confusion, and irrational behavior. Some pointed to military experiments in the area, secret weapons that might have caused both panic and strange injuries. Locals whispered about the Yeti, a mysterious creature of the mountains, and of course, UFO and aliens became part of the speculation after reports of strange lights in the sky around the same time. The Dyatlov Pass Incident became more than just a tragedy. It became a legend, a puzzle with too many pieces missing, a riddle that refuses to be solved. Each year, researchers, adventurers, and curious minds return to that mountain, seeking answers in the snow and silence. But the mountain keeps its secrets well. As we move deeper into this story, we will explore each theory in detail. Was it truly an avalanche, or is there evidence that points elsewhere? Could radiation suggest a military cover-up? And what of the bizarre injuries, like the missing tongue and crushed ribs? Were they caused by nature, by man, or by something beyond our understanding? The story of the Dyatlov Pass incident is not only about 9 lost lives. It is about the human need to explain the unexplainable, to seek order in chaos, and to find meaning in mysteries that defy logic. The discovery of the hikers' bodies only deepened the mystery. To many, the Dyatlov Pass incident was not simply a case of exposure to the elements. The bizarre injuries, the strange behavior, and the unanswered questions demanded explanations, and over the decades, countless theories have emerged. Let us walk through them one by one, weighing the evidence and the doubts. The avalanche theory has long been considered the most official explanation. Investigators proposed that a small avalanche struck the tent, forcing the hikers to slash their way out and escape into the night. Terrified, they fled into the forest without proper clothing. Hypothermia claimed some, while others died from injuries sustained in the avalanche's force. On the surface, this makes sense, yet the site of the tent did not show signs of a major avalanche. The slope was relatively gentle, and the tent was still partly standing when found. Furthermore, the footprints leading away were calm, not frantic, suggesting they walked rather than ran in terror. Could an avalanche explain such behavior? Many doubt it. Next is the katabatic wind theory. In this scenario, strong, sudden winds swept down the mountain, creating the impression of an impending avalanche. Katabatic winds can be powerful enough to frighten experienced hikers into believing they are in danger. This could explain why they cut open the tent in haste, but it does not explain the severe internal injuries of the last 4 hikers, nor the radiation found on their clothing. Then comes the infrasound theory, popularized by researcher Donnie Eichar. Infrasound is a low-frequency sound wave, inaudible to humans but capable of causing anxiety, panic, and disorientation. Under rare conditions, the wind over the mountains could have produced such frequencies, driving the hikers into irrational fear and causing them to flee their tent. But again, infrasound cannot crush ribs, nor tear out a tongue. It explains the panic, but not the violence. The military experiment theory is one of the most enduring. The area around Dyatlov Pass was known to be used for secret Soviet weapon testing. Some suggest the hikers stumbled into a zone of parachute mines or experimental weapons. The blast waves could cause severe internal injuries without leaving external marks, which matches the strange trauma found on some bodies. The radiation traces might also fit into this explanation. But if this were the truth, why not simply cover up the case entirely? Why allow any report at all? Unless, of course, what we received was already a censored version with the most sensitive details erased. Still, others suggest an encounter with local Mansi tribes. Perhaps the hikers trespassed on sacred land, angering the locals who attacked. But investigators interviewed the Mansi people, and there was no evidence of violence or hostility. The footprints around the site belonged only to the hikers themselves. No signs of struggle, no outsider tracks, no weapons. Nothing to suggest human attack. The most chilling theories venture into the supernatural. Some whisper of the Yeti, the abominable snowman of the Urals. A massive creature could have driven them out, crushed bones, torn tongues. But the footprints tell no such story, and seasoned hikers would have likely recorded any strange sightings in their diaries. Still, the idea persists in folklore and documentaries, because fear of the unknown is often more powerful than evidence. And then there are the UFO theories. On the night of February 1, several other groups of witnesses in the region reported strange orange orbs in the sky. Could the hikers have seen something unusual, something that filled them with dread? Some suggest an alien encounter explains the radiation, the injuries, and the missing body parts. Of course, skeptics dismiss this as fantasy, yet the mystery's lack of answers leaves space for such imagination. One of the most puzzling details is the missing tongue of Lyudmila Dubinina. Some argue animals scavenged the body after death, yet when searchers found her, her corpse was buried under several feet of snow in a ravine. Scavenger activity seemed unlikely. Her injuries, massive chest trauma and missing facial tissue, remain disturbing and unexplained. Radiation on some clothing only adds another layer. Tests revealed elevated levels beyond what would be expected in nature. Was it contamination from their university labs, since some of the hikers worked with radioactive materials? Or was it something they encountered on the mountain? The files remain unclear. The official Soviet investigation's conclusion: a compelling natural force only fueled suspicion. Why such vague wording? Why seal the files for years? Was the government hiding evidence of weapons testing? Or was it simply bureaucratic caution in the face of an unsolvable puzzle? In recent years, modern scientists have revisited the case. Computer simulations and field studies suggest a rare type of avalanche, known as a slab avalanche, could have been possible even on the gentle slope. This could explain the tent damage and some injuries. Yet even this does not satisfy everyone. Why no clear avalanche debris? Why did the hikers walk calmly instead of fleeing in chaos? The Dyatlov Pass Incident is not only about science and forensics, it is also about the human side. These were 9 young people, filled with life and ambition. Their diaries reveal joy, jokes, and plans for the future. To think of their last moments, cutting their way out of a tent, braving the freezing night half-dressed, building a fire in desperation, brings the tragedy into sharp focus. They were not nameless victims. They were friends, dreamers, and adventurers, caught in something beyond their control. The legacy of Dyatlov Pass endures. In Russia, it is a symbol of mystery, debated in books, films, and endless discussions. The mountain where they died now bears Dyatlov's name, forever marking their final journey. Each year, hikers retrace their steps, leaving memorials in the snow. And still, the mountain remains silent. Perhaps the truth is lost, buried under decades of speculation and snow. Or perhaps the answer lies in a combination of theories, a small avalanche triggering panic, harsh weather sealing their fate, and bizarre coincidences fueling the legend. But to many, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains unsolvable, a reminder that nature is vast, brutal, and sometimes unexplainable. As we close this story, one thing is certain: the 9 hikers of Dyatlov Pass will never be forgotten. Their story lives on not because we solved it, but because we could not. And in that silence, that unending riddle, lies the true power of mystery.